Regardless of where we actually live, Australians tend to identify very heavily with the bush. In our minds, anyway. Like the poet Dorothea McKellar, we profess to love the sunburnt country, the sweeping plains, the ragged mountain ranges. However, even those of us who live in the city are less keen about the droughts and the floods. For the Australian men and women who actually live out on the land, the people who grow our food, it's not all romance. Particularly these days, climate change is very, very real. A decade of drought followed by 2 or 3 devastating floods in quick succession is more and more the norm. Life for our primary producers is often little more than one natural disaster after another, almost inevitably resulting in cascading financial crises.
The stresses out here, I think, is a lot of financial. The seasons haven't been cooperating with the farming land. So in reference to that, financial difficulties come along. It puts strain on all the families. So then you've got family issues, relationship issues, and then it escalates from there, really.
When you get a drought, you cannot keep up your commitments to your bank or something like that. You get behind and people get more distressed, more down when they can't do it. And they try to battle on and they just can't do it. And then it accumulates, gets worse and worse.
Will it rain at the right time? Will it rain enough? And if all that works and the crops have headed, will the rain then hold off until after the harvest? Do we have enough feed to keep our stock over the dry months? Can we feed them, adjust them, or will we have to shoot them and bulldoze them into the ground, only to start again when it rains once more? Will the bank extend the overdraft so we can put a crop in? Will the bank extend the overdraft so we can eat if the crop fails? Will the kids come home to the farm after school? What will happen to our land? This land passed down from generation to generation. Will we be the ones to lose it?
We had to sell the family farm back in the early 90s. We had drought to start with, which was the first year I left school actually, and we had a couple others after that. Economic pressures were there in those days. We couldn't sell our sheep there for several years because the cost of getting them to market was far more than actually selling the sheep.
Rural communities are under great pressure. Schools, utilities and businesses close down with monotonous regularity. There's remoteness from neighbours, friends, and a lack of the sort of services that people in urban centres take for granted. If looking at the sky and praying for the right amount of rain at just the right time is not enough, then watching your community slowly die certainly is. It can make you depressed, very depressed. And then there's the lack of certainty, the endless anxiety. Any psychologist will tell you that chronic depression and acute and chronic anxiety will play into serious mental illness. And at the end of the road, there's always the spectre of suicide. There's more suicide out in the bush than anybody is prepared to admit to.
Unless you've really been through something, you don't always really understand. And it's all very easy for people to say, get over it, look, you've got a great wife or a great family, or you've paid for your property, or you're living a great lifestyle. When you are in the serious grips of mental illness, you don't see that. You don't know what it's like behind afterwards.
The Australasian Centre for Rural and Remote Mental Health works in the agricultural sector. We work with communities, we work with families, we work with individuals. We educate, we make people aware, we build bridges, we make linkages, and we give clear directions on how to get back on the road to well-being. We've been doing this now for around 10 years. We're dedicated to working with people living and working in the remotest parts of Australia. And we don't have a huge advertising budget to burn. We just do good work in places where no one else goes. And we need your help.
When I was a kid, mental health was never talked about. So I suppose, yeah, it needs to be looked at more out here. It's serious, it's out of control.